World of Warcraft, as we all know, has been always primarily a girl brand, and anyone who disagrees with this obviously truthfully historic statement is a chud and a Nazi. You wouldn't want to be one of those, would you? Of course you wouldn't. We're all civilized people here. But little do they know, I'm Hitler's best guy. Okay? These things do not concern me in the slightest.
World of Warcraft is one of the most tragic victims of the modern gaming industry that brutally mishandles legendary IPs and turns them into shadows of their former selves. It's a textbook example of you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. In its foundation,
The they-them villain, thank you very much.
Warcraft established a certain look or aesthetic for itself that made it really stand out in a sea of other titles in the fantasy genre. Most notably, despite their clear influences from other games, the races of Warcraft had their own flair about them that you could
Yeah, they were all giant, hot, sweaty dudes, and in the situation that was not the case. It was very nice outfitted women.
only find in Warcraft or WoW. However, over the years, we have seen a devastating shift in tone, writing, and art direction that have turned
What do you not like about the literally quadruple crippled, half elf, half black woman? That's a very special person. Also, she's royalty. She actually is technically like Azeroth's most royal bloodline or something like that. You know, she's the queen of they them humans. Okay? And that's not, by the way, a joke. She literally, technically, is like one of the oldest descendants of the king and queen bloodline, and she obviously teaches Anduin how to be a man. Ah, modern World of Warcraft. Isn't it just awesome? I love the inclusivity. Don't know about you, but I love it, okay? She also has one arm, if you're wondering.
WoW from this vast, gritty fantasy that did have a bit of whimsy here and there to a full-on Disney-fied version of its former self. Today, I want to talk a bit about how WoW lost its uniquely Warcraft identity, focusing mainly on art and aesthetics, and just have a
This is a 20-minute video that honestly could be summarized in 5 seconds just by showing a screenshot of modern World of Warcraft writers.
bit of an honest discussion on what exactly went wrong and why it matters in the context of a changing, out-of-touch industry that has plunged many legendary franchises into an identity and aesthetic crisis. Before we get started, hi, my name is Angelica, and this is a video that I have been building up to for a while. It isn't a new discussion, but it's really important to me as somebody who grew up with
By the way, there were a lot of people who were pretty angry with her for saying the obvious, brutal truth.
Warcraft, and I am probably the way that I am because of it. Now, previously on this channel, we have had several in-depth discussion on the races of Warcraft and certain aesthetic and tone shifts that have fundamentally changed how they were even from Warcraft 3 to Vanilla WoW, or even some things that have straight up ruined everything that was unique about a particular race. It hits hardest with the Night Elves, as we have seen, where they went from these savage men and women who fought with a brutality that even the orcs couldn't believe to, please don't hurt my twee. You can check this video out if you want to hear about it in more detail.
Yeah, that's kind of true. The savagery of the elves. I mean, the elves literally come from the trolls. Which, by the way, is considered new lore in the current actual retail version of the game. Everyone's like, oh my god, the trolls and night elves share a common ancestry. Yeah, no shit, the elves came from the trolls. What do you mean? Yeah, we know. and and the writers at World of Warcraft are treating this like some kind of mind-blown revelation because they retconned it for the 5th time. It's great.
But for me, this has sparked a wider discussion on where exactly WoW lost this brutal Warcraft essence and how did we get to these Disney vibes. Honestly, you don't really have to do any in-depth analysis to see that there is a massive difference between even these images here, as if they come from totally different universes. Everyone looks so bubbly, kind. Even the rougher options for faces look so soft and clean. It's
Bro.
missing that bit of spice that we saw with older models. And this bubbly, well-rounded and smooth kind of look really goes for how the rest of the world looks as well. Some people suggest that this is just the natural way that it progressed with these newer models, but I would argue that it definitely could have taken a different way if they wanted it to. Just look at these unused human models and how much they resemble their Warcraft 3 selves. There was already a shift in tone from the start of vanilla World of Warcraft, but at that point it wasn't anything too egregious, even though it would have been nice to see them explore this particular look for humans. A more intimidating, sharper look, and something that made them stand out from humans in other fantasy games. Warcraft 3 was a defining game for the overall look that made WoW so great. They established a very interesting balance between the masculine and the feminine that worked in harmony to amplify one another. By this, I mean it tapped into the side of fantasy that is effortlessly, universally appealing. Strong, believable characters, flawed, but each
Well, isn't that honestly the problem in modern day society, that universally appealed and known things are just wrong or supposed to be wrong because they're old and nothing old is right?
with their own personalities and their own motivations when it comes to the greater fight for the good of their own race or whatever cause they support. A very mature approach that gave
Hashtag Arthas did nothing wrong, okay? The purging of Stratholme was necessary. You know it, I know it. It's not even a bad decision. It had to be done.
a lot of room for growth and a future for Warcraft. It reminds me of how The Lord of the Rings, particularly the movies, are so appealing to literally everyone. They never needed to overcompensate in a way that a lot of modern games and fantasy in general tends to do nowadays. For example, did you know that in total, if you take all of the main female characters and put their screen time together, you don't even get a full hour? And despite this, The Lord of the Rings has a massive female fan base. Then we can look at the Rings of Power and how they
Can we not?
massacred Galadriel's character to where she's no longer a strong, wise elf, but an
What do you mean she's not a strong, wise elf? Did you know that she defeated? Did you know that she killed a frost troll in 3 strikes? Did you know that? Did you know that? Okay? Did you know that orcs are just migrants that want to have raised families? Did you know that? Did you know that? Did you know how deep Galadriel's inner thoughts go? For example, why does a ship not sink when a stone does? Do you know why does a rock sink while a boat doesn't? I mean, you cannot exactly go a lot deeper than this. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable slander.
insufferable girl boss who behaves like those main characters from the Disney shows. Everything feels over-exaggerated, overplayed, and unnatural. Warcraft had a place for everybody, not because they had to fit someone in to meet a quota, but because the world naturally formed in this way. In the RTS, for example, the Night Elves, despite being such a wild and brutal race, are actually a matriarchal society, and little things like even the in-game call
Well, women are really good at committing war crimes, that's true.
callouts are done with a female voice, as opposed to the other races that have male voice callouts. Modern WoW has a lot of flaws when it comes to writing, but particularly female characters feel so forced, unnatural, and like they're
Look at what they did with my girl Sylvanas. She was my favorite, still is technically. But she was my favorite character in World of Warcraft, and then they completely butchered her existence. Sad.
motivation doesn't come from a genuine place, but instead it's all just sort of performative. Sylvanas went from the tragic survivor of the Lich King, the powerful banshee queen that unified the Forsaken, to a cartoony villain. The rest of the writing across the world, coupled with the cadence with which female characters speak, is just, it's Disney.
Is that?
Thoradin's Wall? Yes.
Then the stories and legends I read as a child were true.
This is an infamous example. The way that it
She gonna You gonna yeah, she does!
It looks like a poorly made machinima from the early days, and to be fair, even
Nice.
those looked better.
Dinath fought to save all of Azeroth. He sold us out so the Alliance and Horde could wage war in Kazalgar. You'll never understand.
But it's that overplayed
Oh.
style of narration.
You know what's the best part about this? She literally kills people, innocent people, and blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, you're like, okay, you can leave now. You're a woman. Okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. But a man does the same shit. He and his fucking family get executed.
That is used to tell you about history that is somehow relevant to the plot. The shades that she's wearing are
Her story.
also kind of throwing me off. We get two supposedly strong female characters here, but their dialogue is so poorly written and it's delivered in such a strange way that I can't help but just cringe at it.
I mean, to be fair, they come off more masculine than this day them.
There was talk about this sort of thing happening a lot, not just in WoW, but in other games in general, in an attempt to make games more appealing to women. This is the industry's idea of what is supposed to be appealing to women. A corporate-brained...
I talked about this in my review of the current retail situation, but this is very true. And the point is, the too long didn't read of the whole World of Warcraft situation is Blizzard started losing the old fans that once made World of Warcraft great, and then they decide that they need more people to play it, obviously. And then they decided to use the untapped power of the, well, turns out 50% of the gamers in the world are women. I have somehow not met these other 50%, which is very strange, but I'm sure they're real. And Blizzard decided to completely forsake the game literally to just get a bunch of women in. And granted, it worked. They probably doubled or tripled the amount of women that play this game from, I don't know, like 5% to like 10, 15. But the thing is, if you ever actually talk to a woman who plays World of Warcraft that's retail, you're gonna get a very interesting slew of answers. Do you like the game? Yeah, kinda. Are you interested in the story? Yeah, kinda. What's your favorite part? Arator. Why? Because he's hot. This is gonna be, by the way, a universal answer that the only part of the story that women actually like is Arator because he's hot. And now even that is kind of changing because he cries too a lot. And a man that has emotions is not a man, it's a woman, obviously. You see, I'm very progressive. See? You see? Men are women if they show emotions. That is called progressiveness, okay? It is what it is. Do you like the current way the story is going? Kinda. Do you think it's cool that the evil is not evil and good is not good? Yeah, kinda. All of these answers women that play World of Warcraft are gonna give can be summarized with they're fine with what's happening, but ultimately they don't care because they're not invested. They're fine with the way the game looks. They're fine the way the story is going. They're fine with everything, but ultimately they don't care because they're not invested truly. They could actually play World of Warcraft Classic as long as it had the customization options of retail. That's kind of how the game actually functions. And Blizzard completely ignores this.
Group of people that never really had interest in video games to begin with came up with this. An out-of-touch entity that has all of the power, but none of the creativity to bring Warcraft back to its former glory. Why is it that in order to appeal to female gamers, we need to infantilize the dialogue and the writing to Disney levels? Things like this are straight up insulting to everybody's intelligence. I wonder how it passed quality checks. Is there nobody there?
Because there's no one there, yes.
That listens back to this and says, hey, maybe this is a little bit silly. This is a little side note that goes beyond World of Warcraft and shows you just how much the industry does not take female characters or female gamers seriously, and how much they misunderstand us. A recent example is God of War Laufey, which is such an unfortunate thing for me because A game along the lines of Heavenly Sword or a God of War game with a female protagonist does sound like it's something that would appeal to me, like I would be the target audience for that kind of game. But when I watched the showcase and heard a little
Oh
bit
my god, it's Grogu! It's Grogu! Don't you like Grogu? Everyone likes Grogu. Come on, it's a Grogu! Here's your own Grogu! It's Grogu! You like everyone likes Grogu! God, I hate life.
of her dialogue and what she was saying, I felt confused.
Okay. I think they're gone.
Just be careful. Where are we anyway?
Afterlife of the gods?
Absolute
I
Disney.
call it the everyone. So, what's the plan, boss?
Not your boss, Frank.
Why does she have to be so quirky, and why are we so afraid of
Because she's Lechungus, obviously.
or
The modern writing, if you haven't, one of the most interesting actual things about modern day slop writing is a very on the nose yet amazing fact. It's the thing that you cannot be serious. These people don't understand seriousness. They are gonna have a moment that's supposed to be serious, but they can only make that moment last 2 or 3 sentences, and then they're gonna have a Lechungus, big Chungus moment, where everything yet again is meaningless. They can't, because they can't. Like, these people have some kind of strange twisted aversion to actually having serious moments in anything. Everything needs to be like followed by a comedic line or something. Break the tension, even though the tension has not even been reached.
embarrassed by a true fantasy setting where people speak and act like they would in a serious, mature fantasy setting. Why is there a gelatinous cube named Frank? Where in Greek mythology did we have something like this? The creation of these cartoony girl bosses or quirk chunguses show that they don't really understand
She actually said also Kirk Chungus is based, absolutely based.
what made other fantasy titles so popular with female gamers. Look at things like Skyrim or even Elden Ring as like a really small example. They are games that are just completely themselves. Every character fits naturally into their setting, there is no unnecessary comic relief to make female characters more relatable or less awkward, and there's no Disney-style over-narration of events to make sure that girls will understand what's going on. Those games are just good, and that is why everybody likes them. You don't have to overcompensate at every turn with cute and whimsical characters to get girls to play your game. I'm gonna say something, and it's that performative male feminism has majorly contributed to the industry's skewed and out-of-touch view of female gamers. When this sort of thing receives any bit of criticism, you'll have the white knights come out and say, oh, weak men, fragile masculinity, you hate women if you don't like this sort of thing. Okay,
I absolutely love when people say this, because the reality is they have said this so much, everyone knows that it's not accurate, lies, and stupid to begin with, that none of this matters. All of these, oh, you just don't appreciate women's writing because you're evil or something. Like, who fucking cares? Who cares? You think calling me evil now is gonna change anything? You have called me worse things 5 seconds ago. You think this is gonna change my opinion now? You think you can shame me into subsiding? Giving up? No! No! Go fucking sit while peeing and fuck off.
if you take actual incels out of the equation, which nobody really takes them seriously, the truth is that a female protagonist isn't the problem. If that were the case, so many massive franchises wouldn't have even been half as successful as they are. The problem is with modern developers that will take a legendary, well-established IP and use it as leverage to sell
Please show Fable. If you show Fable, I will marry you.
their own games with mediocre writing. Let's be honest,
Aw.
nobody would buy this if it didn't
Aw.
have the World of Warcraft label on it. We should not be focusing on the extremes that deflect from valid criticisms and concerns when it comes to things like this. Nobody who's normal has any real problem with a female game protagonist, but we also shouldn't reward mediocrity just because the protagonist is a woman. Performative male feminism has been incredibly damaging to so many studios, including Blizzard, who did have a lot of
I mean, we can just simplify this to feminism.
skeletons in the closet of their own in real life, but
Bobby! I told you you're gonna regret when Bobby's gone. Now you wish Bobby was back? Sacrificing a steward this once a month is not even a big deal at this point, huh? I told you you're gonna regret Bobby leaving. I told you he was the damn. And now what? Bobby's gone? And the franchise is fucked? And I honestly don't think it's savable. World of Warcraft can't be saved. The direction that they're going constantly is just worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
they thought that it would be reasonable to turn women into fruit as compensation. I've asked this before, and I will ask this again.
Well, technically I do agree that perceiving women as inanimate objects is kind of based, but you know.
What message does this send about women's bodies, especially in a mature fantasy setting? It's hardly a children's game, if we're honest. I mean, most of the people that are playing World of Warcraft, at the least, would be in their mid-20s, but I'd say the average is like 30s, 40s, and above. And this is just part of the overall problem, but going back...
A lot of the people that I know that play World of Warcraft at this point either have a family or want to have a family. It is what it is.
Back to modern or retail WoW. When the harmonious masculine and feminine elements of the game were neglected, toned down, and stripped back for a more family-friendly version of the game or something that would appeal to more people, it resulted in a kind of a theme park look or feel for the game. You try to make something that appeals to everybody, it then appeals to nobody. There is the added issue of too many things going on at once. There are too many races, there are too many flashy mounts and toys, too many shop items, and it all creates visual noise.
Yeah, everyone looks like a Christmas tree.
This is the backdrop, but in the foreground, the way that the characters are animated, how they move, how they run, cast spells, etc., is so overdone, and for me, it plays like some cartoon or something that isn't really that serious. I think it's important to note just how impactful this change is. We went from these more grounded and down-to-earth animations.
Bro, this is a thing in every game. It's actually very noticeable in card games that have animations for cards, by the way. This becomes super noticeable if you have played a card game. When a couple of very specific cards have an animation of something happening, then that feels really special. But the moment inevitably all the cards get their fancy animations, everything kind of feels just dull and boring. And this is what happened with World of Warcraft spellcasting and animations. The big stuff no longer was differentiable from the small stuff. Everything was maximum bloom. And when everything's maximum bloom, well, nothing really matters.
To the more over-the-top variety that perhaps because of what I'm used to feels very unnatural and frantic. Recently, WoWgrandor did a video about why WoW isn't immersive anymore. Just on that conversation, a lot of these new locations with the latest expansions
Jesus Christ, she's from the WoWgrandor age. Holy.
Me are a little hard to appreciate.
She wasn't joking about about growing up with World of Warcraft, eh?
With just how much is going on. It's not that these places aren't beautiful. There is a certain charm there, but I think that World of Warcraft is a game that
There is no charm here. There is literally no charm in this city. It's an aberration to everything. This is one of the also problems that I have talked extensively about World of Warcraft in general. You somehow have people who make these zones from World of Warcraft who have never literally been outside the city, so you kind of understand that they will fuck up outside designs. That they will put a fence or 15 trees in a place there's no reason for a fence or 15 trees. They're going to oversaturate it as hell. And yet these same people who have literally never been into even to a suburban area of a city, only in the deep concrete jungle, somehow make something like this that doesn't even function as a city. Silvermoon is a shithole. Like, it doesn't make any sense. This thing is just random. It's confusing, and that's it. There's no urban planning going into this thing. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's just confusing, it's large, it's stupid, it's boring, it's dull, and it just has this giant veneer of that this is supposed to be special. You know what's the only thing that makes sense in Silvermoon? This bridge right here. And the fact that it has this small fucking island with the beacon or whatever this is. That's it. That's it. Nothing else makes sense. Nothing else about Silvermoon's design makes any sense.
Benefits from minimalism where possible in terms of world design. It is so much easier to get immersed in a simple, dark forest where the environment is made up of limited but effective components that get across how you're supposed to feel about this place and what it represents, as opposed to these massive, overblown, overly detailed locations where your eyes kind of don't know what to focus on in order to properly appreciate the setting. It's kind of a shame for the better designed parts of the game also, because this just completely clashes with it and takes away from any good art that's created in modern World of Warcraft. Just completely overshadowed by silliness and a general lack of direction. I think that the true Disneyfication started with Draenor when they had the catastrophic change in character models that all but wiped the core identities of many of the races of Azeroth.
I would say it's Pandaria, where the world design just started going purely to shit.
But as time went on, I think that the Disney element was melded together with a Fortnite element. Fortnite was a massive and game-changing influence all across the industry, especially with their specific approach to monetization. What started out with a simple skin shop and then turned into the Battle Pass where you could additionally earn currency, later grew into something that featured all kinds of things, including celebrity cameos, TV show cameos, cameos from other games. So when you go into a Fortnite lobby, everyone is just some different looking thing. There is no rhyme or reason.
And since Fortnite was played primarily by 12-year-olds, you know what's the funniest thing? In the peak of Fortnite, my cousin's kid, I should probably say, was, I don't know, like 11, 10, 12, and he played Fortnite. And he was talking about the skins, and I don't remember what I asked him, but he said, "Oh, in school you're supposed to have a unique paid skin, or you're gonna get made fun of." Yeah, this is why Fortnite was successful. They somehow made kids bully each other for not having a paid skin.
No harmony, but for a game like Fortnite, this is fine. It's a battle royale. You're in, you're out. It's not that deep. I don't think anybody really cares about Fortnite lore or keeps up with it unless they're like 6 or 7 years old. And to me, that's what a lot of World of Warcraft looks like now. I think transmog was a good idea at its conception, but also with all of the quirky cosmetics and things that don't really fit Warcraft in its original sense, cities and hubs can now look a little bit like a Fortnite lobby, just with all of the flashy mounts, new races, and everything else in between. I think Dragonflight was the next major Disney-esque blow to Warcraft, something that really pushed it over the edge.
Dragonflight was a joke, Jesus Christ. Dragonflight. Do you know what Dragonflight is about, by the way? It's about just a bunch of different queer and gay dragons establishing themselves. That's it. That's literally the oversimplified version of what's happening. And this is not a joke. Dragonflight had multiple gay storylines in it. Dragonflight was literally about reaffirming self-identification, and not the classical ID sense, but in literally the beginning of Dragonflight is because I tried to level through this zone once, and I almost Minecrafted myself. Too bad I didn't, honestly, looking how that turned out. In any case, The beginning of this is literally you just establishing a cutesy base camp where everyone can look at the stars and shit. Then you meet the dragons, and the dragons are like one-dimensional personalities. One of the dragons is like, "I'm gonna sacrifice myself for the dragons," and the other one is like, "No, don't." I'm not kidding. Those are literally personalities, full-blown personalities, because there's nothing other than that in them. It is disgusting, ridiculous. The dragons are super inclusive, by the way. You know the guys who literally were like, "Yeah, we're the Red Dragon Flight. We don't exactly appreciate this plague shit happening, so we're just gonna, kinda minor exterminatus the Ratgate, okay? If you're dead, it is what it is. Friendly fire, whoopsie doopsie, everyone's dead. Okay? That was the dragons previously. Now they're now they're literally big chungusing Disney freaks.
Into a more immature fantasy setting. People often misunderstand why there is still such a great appreciation for Warcraft in its earliest iterations, or World of Warcraft from vanilla to about Wrath. But it was just that no matter where you went, even if people were wearing mismatched gear, as you do while you're leveling, you looked like you belonged in this world. Old World of Warcraft is so loved by that side of the community because it's a game that has more than just gameplay going for it. You have gameplay at the center of everything, of course, but beside that you have lore, compelling storytelling, a sense of scale when it comes to the world, adventure, a unique identity and aesthetic, and of course the overall added bonus of nostalgia. You really cannot compete with nostalgia. For retail WoW, it feels like you just have gameplay, because the only good things I ever hear about retail WoW is only ever just related to game.
Bro, I said that. Pressing buttons in World of Warcraft retail is fun. Everything else is sad and bad, but pressing buttons is fun. And my hottest take, by the way, here is the fact that retail World of Warcraft is actually not even in a lot of cases harder than classic. Yeah, that's right. There are tons. Pretty much every class is designed by with pressing 2 buttons in mind, and then maybe off cooldown 1 more button. Okay, and every class has their like 1 minute cooldown things that you're supposed to cast. For example, Fire Mages are literally 2 buttons. Yes, just Fire Blast and Pyro Blast when you pop combustion. Other than that, it's a little bit different, but pretty much the same thing. Frost Mages, same thing. Arcane Mages, literally 3 buttons. No, actually 2 buttons. 2 buttons. Rogues, sub to 3 rogue is 2 buttons. Combat Rogue is 50 buttons, so no one plays that. And a lot of classes are like that. Frost Death Knight, same thing. Some classes do have like these 15-second cooldown things that you're supposed to press on cooldown pretty much. But other than that, nah. It is, the rotations are almost are just 1 button harder than just spam Frostbolt, if you can believe it. And raid-wise, I did all the heroics except March on Quell and Us. That was my first time I have ever done heroics. I did it solo, easy, raid finders, not raid finders, but looking for raid. Wasn't hard at all. In fact, from the 7 bosses I did kill in heroic, from the Spire and the Dream, 5 of these bosses were easier and had less mechanics to worry about than, for example, Katoon or Ragnaros in retail. Not retail, but in classic. I'm not kidding. Most of these fights are literally just AFK. And honestly, for example, the last fight of the Spire or Throne or whatever it's called, when I did it the second time, everything was so solved, everyone knew where to stand. So it was literally almost like a classic fight. Had a little bit more. You needed to jump, and that was hard. But it's as simple as classic. Okay? And buttons feel good to press. They have done a tremendous job at that.
Play. I know a lot of classic versus retail discourse is around the difficulty level of the game. Some classic players say retail is too easy, and retail players argue that it's not. And to be fair, I actually can believe that retail WoW would be quite a bit more difficult. Early WoW was pretty simple if you think about it, and
I went in expecting it to be difficult. It was not. I went in, I expected retail to be hard. It was not. Again, it was not.
unless you're playing hardcore, it's not really that hard to get through the game. It takes a longer time, sure, and I think maybe certain parts of the game are harder than they would be in retail, but overall, when it comes to even the end game, I do think retail probably does have more challenging elements to it. I have been told that I only dislike retail WoW because I'm just not good enough to play it. And here's what I'll tell you. I just don't even have an incentive to try. I don't want to try to be good at it. It just doesn't look like the kind of game that I want to play. A lot of it's just too smooth and polished, and it really
The amount of lore they have given these stupid, annoying freaks is insane, by the way.
polished and it really feels disconnected from its roots. And to me, those are the things that are important. And in talking about this and in making videos like this, I have found an entire community of players like me that find value in the exact same things, and for the exact same reasons they cannot or they do not play retail WoW. I don't know what's going on in the lore anymore, and you know what? Nobody does. This was a major discussion in the community recently. Nobody has any idea what's going on. They've written themselves into a corner. We're probably gonna get like a ton of retcons or time travel or something, just like Mortal
Nice.
Kombat. The best thing that they've done recently seems to be housing. Everybody loved housing, and I'll be honest, I look at
No, the reason you love housing is probably because you know a disproportionate amount of females because you are a female. And females do love housing. I do not know a single man, actually, that has cared about housing or even done housing. On the other hand, though a lot of women have done that.
it, and based on the kind of games that I play, I would probably interact with this and enjoy it quite a lot myself, but it's just still
And again, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, because housing is literally, again, just a mechanic that was intended mostly for women. Again, World of Warcraft is not giving up on the femalification also of World of Warcraft. Again, who are the heroes currently in World of Warcraft? Women. Who are the evil guys? Guys. Yeah, that's right. Can women be evil? No, they're just misunderstood. Case in point, Xalatath, the current big bad of the series. She's probably not gonna get killed. She's probably just gonna become our friend or something by the end.
not enough of an incentive for me to want to come back to the game overall. There is such an unfortunate stigma around people who prefer classic WoW literally just for the way it looks. Do you know how many times I have been called a chud gamer for talking about this? What do you
Based.
want me to say? The chuds yearn for storytelling. They yearn for
As the children yearn for the mines. True.
lore, for gritty, dark fantasy with some whimsy here and there. A simpler time when the game didn't feel so
By the way, this is also something I don't agree. People are saying this is whimsy. This is not whimsy. This is just a distinctively different type of cultural architecture of the elves. That's it. This is not necessarily whimsy. I mean, you can probably think it like that because it's, more trees and technically supposed to kind of be peaceful and whatnot. But this is not. I would never call this whimsy. This is just distinctly different.
a simpler time when the game didn't feel so confusing and silly. But let me tell you something right now, I have the solution. No, it is not to play Classic WoW. Those servers have a bunch of issues. We'll wait for Classic Plus. I'll keep my mind
Yay!
open. The solution, ladies and gentlemen, is to reject corporate slop and embrace tradition. If you are watching this video, then I am telling you right now to go and install Warcraft 3 Reforged and go back to playing a real game. Not just the campaign, but really play Warcraft 3 PvP. Go watch a grubby video, go watch Happy play in a tournament, go learn a build order, and just get in the game. It has to be reforged, so we cannot escape all of the corporate slop, but you can toggle classic graphics and immerse yourself in a real, brutal, gritty Warcraft as God intended. Oh, but you like decorating your house in retail World of Warcraft? Go build a base. like a man or a woman, some burrows or a ziggurat, whatever you're into. Go play a real game that still holds true to the roots of one of the greatest game franchises of all time. And then 1v1 me on the ladder, if you aren't chicken. But on a serious note, I maintain that everybody should be able to just play whatever they want, even if it is retail WoW. There's clearly still an audience for it. And even that audience, by the way, already has a lot to say about the
I think that audience is just constantly dwindling. Because historically, what has happened with World of Warcraft is quite interesting and telling. Because the moment the graphs started going down and Blizzard could not get them to go up, they stopped showing the numbers. Remember, was it 2-3 years ago or 4 years ago, something like that, where the graph suddenly moved up again and Blizzard was like instantaneously, the graph went up! And they instantaneously showed us the numbies. Yeah, so the graph is just constantly moving down. Otherwise, they would show the graph as a good and positive thing. It's again, it's just a corporate thing. Numbers bad, don't show graph. Numbers good, do show graph. It's not that complicated, honestly, sometimes.
And various other issues with the game, but in keeping with our previous discussions around the aesthetics of Warcraft and just the overall legendary vibes that we got from it that just weren't recreated anywhere else ever, this was an important video for me to make, and that's why I made it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little rant on the Disneyfication of Warcraft. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. As always, huge shout out to my channel members.
Okay, absolutely great. That was my wife, Angelika Tosh. Angelika Tosh. Angelika Tosh. I don't know exactly. Anyway, my wife. 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.